It's my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, Lisa Carreño. Lisa and I first met last century when she was executive director of the YWCA. Then she went on to 1000 Degrees after that. Lisa is an attorney and has been a nonprofit and community leader on both the East and West Coast for more than 3 decades. She joined the United Way of the wine country as its president and CEO in August 2018. She currently also serves as a chair for Sonoma County and on the board of directors for Forget Me Not Farm Children's Services, Community Foundation Sonoma County Secure Families Collaborative, and the Pepperwood Preserve Foundation. And Lisa is going to be celebrating her 33rd anniversary with her wife, Lorene Erzeri, this summer. I can't believe it's been that long. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you, everybody. It is a real honor and pleasure to be here with you this afternoon. And I told Karen when I arrived earlier that the invitation to come and talk with you about the value, the importance of volunteerism, made my week when I received it a few weeks ago. It's a subject that's very near and dear to my heart. I grew up, at least a few of you know who I've known for more than 30 years, Debbie and Pat. And Karen know that I was in Catholic school for 20 years. And so service is one of those core values that I know was a big part of my upbringing as a student in schools in Tampa, Florida, and in my home. United Way has been a part of my family since my mother was a United Way volunteer and a United Way donor, and my uncle as well. So I really get, on a cellular or atomic level, how important it is for us to be connected in the community with one another, because we are one community, whether we realize it or not, whether we experience that or not. Our fates are commonly bound, and not just with other people, but with the land and with the other beings who inhabited this space with us. So it is in that spirit that I prepared for formal remarks. A lot of times when I speak, I will speak extemporaneously because I just feel comfortable doing that. But we live in a moment, and we are experiencing times when it feels super important to be really intentional about how we attend to our relationships with ourselves and with one another, and with how we relate in the community. So I'm gonna reference this quote from Martin Luther King a couple of times, just to kind of get us started. But as a theme, if there were a theme to this, it would be inspired by these words by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Our goal is to create a beloved community, and this will require a qualitative change in our souls, as well as a quantitative change in our lives. Before I go further, I want to congratulate the League on what you've done historically and what you've done recently. Looking at this detail of what you've done over the past year is inspiring and humbling to me, as you guys are a self-organizing group of volunteers, and you have been for decades. And you show up day after day, election after election, giving of yourselves to the community and in the service of the generations that will come. And I think that's just really the highest form of service to the people with whom we share this beautiful space, but also to our democracy. And it couldn't be more important than it is right now. I want to explain a little bit about why this conversation, having this conversation with you, is important to the United Way of the wine country. We have been in our community for 55 years, and I think we're probably best known as an organization that does grant making and some advocacy, convening, and community service. We have over 160 volunteers who work with us each tax season to prepare tax returns for households that are earning under $79,000. And those volunteers get trained up and certified by the IRS to complete tax returns. This year they helped over 6,000 households put $9 million into their pockets. And over the past 14 years, they've helped bring $100 million back to households. And just to give you a sense of how crucial the volunteers are, if we did not have those volunteers, that work just wouldn't be happening. Importantly, over 14 years, they've brought over $100 million back to our region. And studies show that the multiplier effect of that investment from those families in local communities is $1 times 12, because they're spending that money locally. So none of that goodness would be happening if our Earn It, Keep It, Save It volunteers weren't providing those free services to those households. And just to put a finer point on this, although the eligibility is $79,000 for this free service, the average adjusted gross income for households this year was $23,134. And this is in a community where the real cost of living for a family of four is over $97,000. The refunds that they receive put significant cash in their pocket, and studies show that it's the single most effective poverty-busting intervention there is among all the things that we try to do. And that happens because volunteers make it happen. Yeah. So we very intentionally have shifted our focus over the last 4 years to invest all of what we can in family financial stability building and equity building. Our volunteers are core to that. We've also sharpened that focus so that our focus is really on centering the communities who are most marginalized by historic, systemic, and institutionalized racism, social injustice, and economic disadvantage. So the mission of United Way now is laser focused on struggling families to help them gain agency, experience dignity, and acquire the resources they need to achieve financial stability and economic mobility, to liberate them from poverty. We believe that the need to shift inequity and injustice is urgent because the well-being and the resiliency of our community is so urgent, and we're only as vibrant and as vital as those who are struggling but overcoming what they're struggling with. Let's focus on the League. So, as volunteers, I think you all know how vital you are to what happens in our local political discourse. no one under any circumstances should underestimate the power of who they are as a single individual. And I think it's important for you all to appreciate that each of you has a unique purpose that no one else in the world is fulfilling. So to me, what you give to our community is genuinely crucial to our well-being as a democracy in this space. What you contribute to having hard conversations couldn't be more important to the future of our community and to demonstrating to our community the importance of leaning into hard conversations. You set the table. You set the standard and the example for doing that. But it's important for you to know that that there's a crisis in the United States of both generosity and volunteerism. There's literally a book called The Generosity Crisis, and it brings our attention to the decline over many decades of people's sense of belonging and their draw to community activities like what you all are doing. This has happened for a whole host of reasons, but among them, and these studies are trending back all the way to, no lie, the 50s, with the advent of television. People didn't go to theaters anymore. People didn't get together in community settings for their community entertainment or their neighborhood entertainment. And if you think about going from maybe one television in one neighborhood where everybody got together, you can go even further back and think about the radio. When the radio was introduced, more than 100 years ago, same thing, only a few people had radios. But then everybody got a radio, and then everybody got a TV. We have increasingly, over the last 100 years, been living what are called atomized lives. And now, as atoms, we live in atomized lives in our households with devices in our hands, everybody on their own device doing their own thing. These devices that were meant to create these community experiences together have actually helped to separate us. And so, you wonder what the antidote to that is. Genuinely, it's connection. It's bringing people together in meaningful and authentic ways, to do something, to share a common purpose, and to create together, co-design together, learn together, grow together. How do we do that? How do we shift that when everything around us actually conditions us to continue to live, in silos and become more siloed? Well, that's actually where, some of the old ways of raising our kids in kindergarten kind of come into play. I was thinking about this morning while I was getting dressed, that I remember when I was younger, when there was a new person in my classroom, we were always encouraged to, invite the new person to come and sit with you on the playground at lunch. Invite them to walk with you to church, in my case. Invite them to play with you in your little group. Get to know them and help them, now we would say, help them feel like they belong. When we don't do that, there's a whole host of things that kind of fall apart. when people don't feel a sense of belonging, we lose all of what they have to contribute to whatever it is that is possible among us. We lose their intelligence, we lose their culture, we lose their creativity, we lose their perspectives. We lose, what they stand for, what values they stand for. And that's so important because, we genuinely are stronger together. With what's really worrying about the loss of volunteerism over the last number of decades, and extremely worrying about what's going on in Sonoma County right now, is I think you all probably noticed that in the last couple of election cycles, there are a lot of young candidates who ran for office and won. And a lot of them were from communities of color. And a lot of them have already resigned or aren't running again. And that's happening because that sense of belonging, that sense of agency, and frankly the fact that many of them have been targeted and undermined in their leadership because they have a perspective, they have a voice that's different from other voices that have traditionally dominated the conversation, ends up isolating them, and the work gets hard. And some of their families have been targeted. We're in a really pivotal place in this community around who's running for office, who's not running for office, and who's going to step into those voids. And so, honestly, the work that you all do as the League and the work that Los Angeles Sonoma County wants to do with you and United Way wants to do with you to promote the work that you're doing is so essential, really, to the well-being of our community's public discourse, to our public service, to the solutions that come out of the future leadership bodies that we elect in this election cycle. Just, take, for example, there's going to be a sea change in leadership with the Santa Rosa City Schools Board of Trustees because several members, longtime members of that board, their roles, their terms are expiring, they're not running for office again. Who's going to fill those voids? And what values will they bring to the conversation? So I come back to that quote that I opened with from Martin Luther King. Our goal is to create a beloved community, and this will require a qualitative change in our souls as well as a quantitative change in our lives. The opportunity that's in front of us is to give ourselves permission to change our souls and to invite others and bring them along with us. So I guess I want to stop there and just kind of open the floor and invite conversation. I can see that wheels are turning and you have reactions. Volunteerism is as old as we are as a species, I think. Ideally, we're all standing for values that build community, that create a beloved community. I think that's really at the heart of what I hope our conversation this afternoon will inspire. So, yes, Leona.
Well, I liked one comment that really resonated with me when you said that the league who works around elections are in service to those who come after them. That really sort of resonated with me.
You know, there's a belief for a long time, for over 30 years, I've been reading and studying, a bit about Native American spirituality, and the Native American people believe that what they are responsible for today will affect at least 7 generations going forward. So if I think about, first of all, I'm going to be forgotten in 7 generations, but my impact will be felt, right? So if I know that, how does that change what I do today? Who is my centered community? Who is close to them? Who wants to see them succeed? Who's missing? If I'm paying attention to that, if United Way is paying attention to that, then I feel like we're getting closer to what our purposes are. Yeah. Yes, sir. Rick.
Thank you. The most distressing thing I heard you say was that after a whole generation of young people from a variety of demographic groups ran for office, now they're getting discouraged and they're dropping out.
Yeah.
I wonder if you could say anything more about that, and in particular, is there, what could we, as a League of Women Voters, do to try to keep that group involved? Because I think that's extremely important.
I couldn't agree with you more. So Alan is waving at me and he wants me to repeat your question, and I'll try to repeat or summarize so that we get it on the tape. So Rick asked about my reference to the numbers of young public office holders, particularly people of color, who were elected in the last couple of election cycles, who are not running for office again, and some of whom have already resigned because of some of the experiences they've had. What can we do as a league and as a community to support them and help keep them going? And that's a beautiful question, and I'm so grateful that you're so moved to ask that question, Rick. Well, what they need are, networks of friends and supporters. They need to be encouraged. They need to be reminded that what they're doing counts and matters, and that we believe in them, and that to the extent that they're being harassed, that they're being, in some cases, threatened, that their families are being threatened, that we stand with them and in no way, shape, or form condone or wish to support, even by our silence, that kind of bullying tactic. It has no place in our public service. It has no place in our body politic, and we won't stand for it. This is, the League stands for dignity and equity and justice and compassion. And no person in elected office deserves to be harassed or threatened or bullied in any way, shape, or form. And so for the League, even if it's quietly, just reaches out when you know that's happening, to let them know, look, we stand with you. You may not agree on policy sometimes, but we absolutely stand with you. I had the opportunity a couple of weekends ago to spend time with one of our elected city council holders, and I referenced some difficulty that she was going through about a year and a half ago. And while we were driving over to Napa for a community thing together with tribal community leaders from Napa, Sonoma, and Mendocino counties. And just the reference alone to what happened, and apologizing for not reaching out then to say that never should have happened. We stand with you. I stand with you. I believe in you. And I know it's hard for you as a person of color in this role. I just want you to know I see you and I deeply appreciate you. That's I mean, that sends such a strong message of, I want to be in community, you belong to me. I may not have been responsible for your election because we don't live in the same jurisdiction, but I believe in you as a leader and your voice is important to what's going on in our community. And I stand with you, is really the bottom line. That's what they need to know. Pat, was that your hand? Yeah.
Yeah, I also was very moved and reflective on what you were saying. It seems to me that there could be a role for creating networks and caucuses among the targeted folks.
Yeah.
We all know that these people are not getting paid.
Right.
They have to deal with a myriad of issues just on the policy, and then there's all this discourse. So it seems like there's really a crying need to support networking within the Brown Act and all that stuff, to really have forums or places for them to connect and under an organizational wing possibly.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful idea. I mean, just, inviting some of them to lead conversations, to ask them, how's it going? How are you doing? What can we do to support you? And see, the genuine antidote to the generosity crisis and the volunteer crisis is that deep connection, that deep personal connection. And we are, again, so busy and so conditioned to be busy and distracted that we lose sight that these are people in exactly the position that you just said. They're volunteers. They're being paid nothing. They're doing it because their inner sense of purpose compels them to step into this void in leadership. And they need to know that we care about them as people first and foremost. Yeah, I love that idea. Donna, I saw your hand, and then Debbie.
Yeah, I just want to follow up that the league is hoping to do training probably in January on how to run for office, to encourage more people of color and women to run even for commissions or elected positions. So anybody who wants to help organize those activities, probably hopefully January, let me know.
Well, and I'll just let you know this. Los Young Sonoma County is working on developing a leadership development program with the intention of it being like a cohort style development model, so that the cohorts will have the training and one another and a network around them. And so, we'd very much love to collaborate with you on the development of that and also support the training that you're doing. That social capital building, the deep connection. The most important thing about it isn't so much the training. It's the connectivity among the people. The thing you can't see. That dark matter is actually where 99% of the success is, right? Yes, Debbie.
Couple of things. I know that in Sonoma County there is like a council of mayors that meet on a regular basis, but it's kind of only for mayors.
Right.
And so it misses, 90% of the people that are serving on city councils. So maybe we could take a look at those kind of things that are already happening and extend them out farther. And I wanted to just kind of relate my experience of getting involved in the league and why it worked and why I became an addict. Because, because I put my toe in the water. You know, I just took one little step and found one little thing I felt somewhat comfortable doing. And my experience was there was lots of people ready to answer questions. There were lots of people ready to offer help. So I never felt like I was alone. And I think what these people are experiencing is feeling like, oh, I jumped in the water and now I'm alone and I feel like I'm drowning.
Right.
So somehow if we could identify mentors in the community, even if we don't do it ourselves, but sort of like convening some of the more experienced people in our community and saying, can you provide a support system? Can you be on call? Or could you have office hours a certain time of the month? Because that's what did it for me, was having somebody to go to when I had a question or when I felt I was in over my head. There were lots of go-to people in this organization I could go and talk to. So maybe somehow replicating that in a different form, where people are available, kind of on call to provide assistance.
I think that's 100%, right on. The void in leadership is actually, you're seeing, this hole, right? And the way that, I think growth and progress is made is by seeing the void in leadership and stepping into it, for the league to become part of that supportive network and a pathway to mentoring and coaching and support and encouragement, just makes the league even that much more vital to the health and the well-being of our democratic institutions here in this community. And look, all politics are local. To me, the most important work that's being done politically in the United States right now is what's happening here at this local level. So to invest energy and intention in doing exactly that as a complement to the training that you all are already doing, I think is brilliant. Yeah. Yes, Teresa.
So in the climate of the generosity crisis,
Mm-hmm.
what do we as a league do, or what could you suggest we do to attract new members and active volunteers among those members?
Yeah, it's in everything that you do. To me, it's do it with the intention of being 100% present with the person that you're with, so that you're building deep connection between you. So Debbie was just talking about creating with intention support for people who are electeds, so that they have a network, or they have at least one trusted person in this space that they know they can reach out to, who will help get them connected to, or will help ground them in whatever they might need at the moment. I would say the same is true for attracting and engaging your current members. You have around 30 people here today, but you've got 155 members. The ripest place to start is with reaching out to the people who are members and really deeply engaging each of them, inviting them to whatever this work is, by personally reaching out to them and saying, look, you joined this organization for a reason. Tell me what moved you. What's important to you? We have a few things going on, and I wonder if you could, give us a few hours over the next few months to help us do these things. But make it authentic and make it real to them. By making it real to them, by connecting with who they are, what's important to them, I think you'll have, significant success with filling these roles here and the support roles that go with it. But it's I remember a few of you have been at Los Young programs where the young students from high school have spoken, and in both of the programs that we've done that were student led, There were students who said, the thing that I missed at school was that nobody ever asked me how I was doing. And their sense of disengagement from school is because nobody ever asks them how they're doing. When you run into one of these, appointed members of a board or a commission or electeds, first question ought to be, so how are you doing? How's it going? What are your priorities these days? How can I be of service? How can we help? You're humanizing the connection and deepening the connection just by your intention of being present with who they are and what's meaningful to them. Man, I don't know, I feel like that's going to be evolutionary, if not revolutionary, for the relationship between the league, each of you as members of the league, and the folks in this community whose leadership roles you want to make understood and advance. So, is this what you were after? Okay. I'm going to stay to the end of the meeting. I'd be happy to talk more with you about this. I hope what I shared today is helpful, and I look forward to working with you and talking with you more about it.